As the fall season takes hold of northeastern Oklahoma, a traditional summer pastime must come to an end: crawdad hunting. But before all of the crawdads could hide away for the winter, we caught up with a Cherokee family who's been gigging for crawdads for generations.
There's several ways to catch crawdads. Some of them are by seine, some of them by net, some of them by trapping them, but we have always just used crawdad gigs. You know, a crawdad gig is a metal spear with a wood handle, and we would go down, but most of the time we would go at night, and because the crawdads come out at night to feed.
Got him.
In my pastime, I love to forage. And I forge fish gigs and crawdad gigs, and I make the whole thing, the head that you spear the crawdad with or the fish with, and then I also make the poles. And growing up, it's something that my dad loved doing. In the summertime, he would come home and he'd say, "Guys, y'all want to go down the creek?" And we never said no. So it was always a treat for us to go down the creek with him and go gig some fish, or chase crawdads, or whatever. And sometimes it was a means to sustenance for us, but we'd have a fish fry, and it itself brought a lot of family times, family get-togethers, and a lot of good times. A lot of times that I'll never forget. My dad was Hastings Shade. Growing up, we were on the creek a lot. He liked to gig, fish, and noodle, and everybody that wanted to go get fish would come by, and Dad was eager to help everybody, to go with anybody in time. And Dad would always go down the creek with some of his buddies, and they would bring back stringers of fish, and it's something that we always wanted to do until we were old enough and Dad could trust us. We would go with him, and one of the first things that he had a big gig, and we wanted one just like his, but he made us use a little single prong gig with a cane pole on it, and he had always told us that if you can gig anything with this, then you'll be a good gigger. Half of my dad was my mom. Mom was, and again, she's like my dad. She's very fluent Cherokee. She has her master's in education, her master's in counseling. Yeah, she is the one who showed me the proper way to cook crawdads, and just to make sure that you don't overcook them or undercook them. A big part of us and the health of us has been Mom and her cooking and her meals. It's a big part of our family. The creek has been a big part of our life. I've grown up on this creek here and been a part of the creek. I'm 52 years old, and ever since I was able to walk, we've gone swimming, and just summer times, and just family cookouts. It's always been associated with the creek down there. I pass that on to my kids. We go down to this very day. Just a few days ago, we went and got some crawdads. My two youngest, Dustin and Katie, my two youngest ones, went with me the other night, and we've got a mess. And it's just time spent with them that I know that when they grow up, that one of these days they're gonna leave and have their families of their own. And I hope that they bring their family back, and hopefully that I'm alive so that I can still teach them. 5 years ago, my dad passed away. There was that summer, he had made sure that the three boys, my brothers, we all got out here, and he wanted to make sure that we made a crawdad gig, a fish gig. He just made sure that we knew what we were doing as far as the craft that he knew that he wanted to teach us. And he was out here, we would make a mistake, he would say, "No, you need to do it this way and that way," and sometimes I even catch myself talking to him. It just when I feel that there's something that I need to say out loud, or something that I need to address, I'll just say, "Dad, I just need your help right now. What can I do?" Because when he was here, that was what we used to do. In his words and wisdom, and in his Cherokee knowledge, he would say, this might happen, but just let it pass, and everything will be all right. And that was his favorite that was his favorite quote was, it'll be all right. Just give it a little time, it'll be all right. So, and I miss that about it. This first part of June, my son had called me and said, Dad, there's a bunch of us down the creek and we want to get some crawdads. I was tired, but I went back to my dad when I'd always ask my dad, let's go gigging. He'd say, I knew he was tired, but he'd always say, all right, let's go. So I thought about that time and I said, all right, I'll be down there in a few minutes. Let me get the lights together and the gigs together. Skylar Heaton was one of them, and that night we had a good time. We got about a half-a-gallon bucket full of crawdads, and I got to tell my stories about the area where we went gigging, and the kids really enjoyed that. And they said, they call me Coach Shade. They said, Coach Shade, can we do this again next week? And I said, well, how about next Tuesday night, or maybe Wednesday? And we'd made plans to come back that next week, and Dustin's friend, Skylar, had died in an accident that next Monday, which, really I did it for him because being my son's best friend, I thought, well, let me introduce him to something that he may not have ever seen. And, he went home and told his mom and dad that, he said, man, I had the best time. And they asked him what he did, and he said, I went crawdad gigging with Coach Shade and Dustin. So that's something that, I'll remember. And even when I go back to this very day, he's always on my mind, that I got to show somebody something that, that we liked. And it's all about crawdads.